to comply with the 9-0 Supreme Court order to facilitate his return to the United States? Just yes or no.
This administration is following all federal court orders.
Madam Secretary, this is a simple question.
It's the president's prerogative on conversations that happen with the president of El Salvador.
I ask a simple question. We have a limited amount of time. And what are the provisions of the document? So do you know what entities in El Salvador are receiving the funds?
I'm sure you can see this document as well and have looked at it for evaluation.
I'm glad you raised that, Madam Secretary, because I sent you a letter along with many of my colleagues here on...
In the marble halls of power, the air was sharp with law and politics. Senator Van Hollen rose, steady, deliberate, his voice a chord of the Constitution itself. "Madam Secretary," he asked, "will you honor the court's command? 9 justices, 1 voice. Bring the man back who was wronged." But the secretary's words were fog and thunder. "I follow all court orders," she said, then turned her gaze to ghosts of terror and crime, painting a man in shadows the courts had cleared. Van Hollen pressed, "This isn't about him, but about us, about due process, about justice that bends for no one." The chamber crackled. Law met politics. Truth met deflection. And in that clash, the question still hung. Not just for Garcia, but for a nation's soul. Will we obey our own laws when fear and power whisper otherwise?
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Secretary, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
And I was glad to see in your recent testimony that you reaffirmed your obligations to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I understand you had an exchange with Senator Murphy on the Abrago García case. And so I'm just going to put the question directly to you. Are you or DHS doing anything to comply with the 9-0 Supreme Court order to facilitate his return to the United States? Just yes or no.
This administration is following all federal court orders.
Madam Secretary, this is a simple question.
It's the president's prerogative on conversations that happen with the president of El Salvador.
I ask a simple question. We have a limited amount of time. I just asked you, Madam Secretary, whether or not you or the Department of Homeland Security are taking any action to facilitate the 9-0 Supreme Court decision to facilitate his return. This is a very simple question. Are you taking any action to facilitate his return, or are you not?
This administration is following and complying with all federal court orders to make sure that we.
So you are because the court ordered that you facilitate his return. So you are facilitating his return.
Sir, Senator, thank you for the question. But what I would tell you is that we are following court orders and that your advocacy for a known terrorist is alarming to me.
Madam Secretary.
It's alarming to me because he's a human smuggler.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to have to reclaim
and a terrorist, and he's not a U.S. citizen. He's a citizen of El Salvador, and he's home. If he were to come back
Madam
here,
Secretary,
we would take him immediately.
All right,
back
I'm going to have to, Madam Secretary, you should know a couple facts then, which is, number one, in 2019, the immigration court said that he should not be returned to El Salvador because it would put his life in danger. The Trump administration at the time did not appeal that decision. After that, he got a work permit and was working legally in the United States of America. This is also why the district court and the appellate court and the Supreme Court have ruled as they have. I suggest that rather than make these statements here, that you and the Trump administration make them in court under oath, because despite what you just said, the federal district court whose judge is hearing this case right now said, and I'm quoting, that the administration has provided no evidence linking Abrago García to MS-13 or any other terrorist activity. I'm not vouching for the man. I'm vouching for his due process rights.
Well, yes, you are, sir.
No, Madam Secretary, with respect.
I would suggest that you defend and stand alongside the victims of illegal crime.
This is political rhetoric.
Citizens who live here and are United States Americans. I would suggest you advocate for them as hard as you do.
Madam Secretary, I know you're doing a political speech here. I get it. I'm asking questions of law. No, you're just spewing rhetoric.
I truly believe this. I truly believe this as an American.
Let me ask you this. Do you agree with Justice Scalia in the Supreme Court opinion in Reno v. Flores that, I'm quoting, "It is well established that the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law in deportation proceedings," end of quote. This
Sir, we are utilizing every due process tool that this Congress has afforded us. The Congress decides what
Madam
due process
Secretary,
is appropriate for every situation. Expedited removal is a due process that you have afforded us that we are utilizing. The Alien Enemies Act
I'm going to
is another
reclaim my
tool that
time,
we're
Madam
utilizing.
Secretary.
So
You
we are
are,
giving due
Madam
process
Secretary.
and using the tools
Madam
that
Secretary,
this Congress has given us.
this is really, I'm asking sort of simple questions of law and simple questions like, are you complying with the 9-0 Supreme Court decision? And you seem to think that's some kind of trick question. Let me ask you this. You were down at CCOT in El Salvador, and you said, and that I'm quoting, it is one of the tools in the toolkit that we will use. And it's well known that the Trump administration is paying the government of El Salvador to keep these individuals, including those who the U.S. courts have determined were illegally taken out of the country in violation of their due process rights. Have you seen the grant document between the United States and the government of El Salvador with respect to the CCOT?
It's important that everybody knows the consequences of what happens for their actions in this country. When you break the law and you're a member of a foreign terrorist organization,
Madam Secretary, I asked you a question. Have you seen the document? This is not hard.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And what are the provisions of the document? So do you know what entities in El Salvador are receiving the funds?
Sir, I'm sure you can see this document as well and have looked at it for evaluation.
I'm glad you raised that, Madam Secretary, because I sent you a letter along with many of my colleagues here on April 8th asking for, among other things, that document. Will you respond to the letter that we sent?
I will respond to your letter.
Thank you. Can I get some sense of when?
We will take a look at it. I don't remember seeing your letter yet, but I will certainly take a look at it.
Well, it's been there over a month.
The senator's time has expired.
No, Madam Chair.
Senator Kennedy?
Madam Chair.
Madam Secretary.
Secretary, I have some additional questions.
No, sir, that's up to you to manage that time. Senator Kennedy.
Madam Secretary.
I need a little help from a chair that respects the members of the
Madam
committee. I'm sorry, Madam
Secretary.
Chair. This is.
You pretty